Hello everyone, my name's Rev'd Geraint and I'm one of the priests working in the Llynfi and Upper Avon valleys. And I wonder whether you know that this time of year is a very special time of year for our churches. And it's a time that we call harvest. And lots of churches and lots of chapels are celebrating Harvest Festival at the moment. A time where we show our gratitude, our thanks for all the wonderful things that we have, and especially our food. Because we so often take our food for granted, don't we? Our parents or somebody goes shopping and the food goes in the cupboard and then it ends up on our plate. But there's a lot of effort that goes into growing and preparing food. Now, I quite like crisps, but crisps start out as a potato, and somebody has to grow that potato and prepare that potato for us. And even things like these, carrots, take a lot of effort to grow. And so for Christians and for our churches, this is a very special time as we say thank you to God and thank you to all those who prepare our food for us. And it's also a good time to remember that sharing is so important, because I don't know about you, but I don't grow very much fruit and vegetables. And so if those who did grow them kept them and didn't share them with us, then I wouldn't have a bag of crisps because I don't grow potatoes to turn them into crisps. I wouldn't have lovely soups which have carrots, or my roast dinners, because I don't grow them myself. So it's really important that people share these things with us. So today I'd like to tell you a story about the importance of sharing. And then after I've shared that story with you, I'll encourage you to have a little bit of a think about what it means to share and how important sharing is and whether we share enough. So I'd like to tell you this story now, and it's a story called Stone Soup. So once upon a time, there were three old and weary travellers who came to the edge of a town. Their feet were blistered from walking for so long, their mouths were dry, and their bellies were aching with hunger. "Oh, I'm starving," moaned the first. "Oh, I'm exhausted," groaned the second. "I know," said the third. "Let's stop at this town and ask for help. Let's see if they can give us some food and some water." Now, the people who lived in this town were by no means rich, and what little food they had, they always kept for themselves, hiding it even from their friends and their families. When they looked out of their houses and saw these three travellers coming along, they each said to each other, "Look, hungry strangers. We know what they want, don't we? Quick, let's hide all of the food and pretend that we have nothing." And that's exactly what they did. But of course, the travellers came to the first house and they knocked on the door. "Good day and peace be with you," they said. "Will you please kindly share a little of your food with us?" "Sorry," said the man of the house. "We gave all our spare food to the travellers who came here last week, and there's only one room in our house, so there's not really any room for you here." And of course, they were lying because they'd already hid all the food. So the travellers sighed and they went on to the next house and they knocked on the door. The door creaked open and a little old lady said, "Go away, I haven't got any food to give you either," as she gradually pushed away the food that was in sight so that nobody could see that she really did have some food that she could give them. Well, they were just about to give up and to leave that town when one of the travellers had an idea. "These people have to learn," he said. "Let's play a little trick on them and teach them a very big lesson." "What an excellent idea," said the second traveller. "But what sort of trick?" asked the third, "and what kind of lesson?" "Gather around," said the first traveller, "and I will tell you." And so in whispers and secret signs, he told them. And as the plan unfolded, his two companions nodded and grinned. Well, as soon as they were ready to put their plan in action, the first traveller spoke in a big and booming voice. so that all of the near townspeople would hear. "How terribly sad that the poor people in this town have no food," he said. "But never mind, we three shall go into the town square, and there, as night falls, we shall make a pot of the delicious and nutritious stone soup." Well, when they heard this, the town people were extremely curious. They'd never heard of this delicious and nutritious stone soup. They'd never heard of it before, and they wondered how it must taste. "How do you make stone soup?" they asked the travellers. "Well, we'll gladly show you," replied the first. "Come with us." But he said, "First, we need a big empty pot." And so one of the townspeople said, "I have a pot that's big enough to use." And he brought the most enormous pot. "Now," said the traveller, "we need lots of water." "I have some water," said one of the townspeople, and they brought lots of water to add into the pot. "Now then," said the traveller, "now for the magic ingredient." And he bent over and he picked up a small stone and he dropped it into the pot. Taking a spoon, he tasted the stone soup. "Ah," he said, "it is very nice, but what it could really use is a little bit of salt. What a shame that none of you here have any salt." And the townspeople were curious, so one of them said, "Well, I have some salt." And they brought the salt to go in the soup. And tasting it again, the traveller tasted the soup and he said, "Oh, it's much better. What we really need now is some pepper. What a shame that none of you have any pepper." And somebody said, "Well, I have a little pepper." And bringing the pepper, they came and added it to the soup. The traveller tasted the soup again. "Oh, how wonderful," he said. "But if we only had a carrot. What a shame that none of you here have any food." And the little boy said, "We have some carrots." And bringing the carrots, they chopped them up and they added them to the soup. Again, the traveller tasted the soup and he said, "How wonderful. This is going to be the best stone soup that we have ever made. But if only we had some cabbage. What a shame that none of you here have any food." And an elderly gentleman at the back said, "I have a cabbage." And he brought the cabbage, and having chopped it up, they added it to the pot. Now, it was time to taste the soup again. And the traveller tasted the soup and he said, "Wow, this is amazing soup. This is the best stone soup that I have ever made. If only we had some onions. What a shame that none of you here have any food. None of you have any onions." And guess what happened? Somebody said, "Well, actually, I have some onions." And they chopped up the onions and they added them to the soup. Then after he tasted the soup again, he said, "This is incredible. This really is the best stone soup that I have ever made. If only we had some swede and some parsnip." Well, you know what happened. These people who said that they had no food suddenly found that they had some parsnips and some swedes, and they chopped them up and added them into the pot. Tasting the soup again, The traveller said, just needs one more ingredient. If only we had some potatoes. What a shame that none of you here had any food to give us. None of you have any potatoes. Well, you guessed what happened. These townspeople were so curious to taste this wonderful pot of stone soup that they managed to find in their cupboards some potatoes and add in the potatoes to the pot. They were starting now to get really hungry as the smell of the soup was intensifying and their mouths were starting to water. And tasting the soup again, the traveller said, this really is the best stone soup that I have ever had, but it just needs one more ingredient. It needs some herbs. What a shame that none of you had any food, none of you have any herbs to give us. And you know what happened. Somebody came along with the herbs and adding the herbs into the soup. The traveller tasted one final time and he said, this really is the best stone soup that I have ever had. And they all shared the stone soup. Now then, what about that magic ingredient? What was the magic ingredient that got added to the soup? Was it really the stone? Did the stone really add anything special to that soup? Well, I don't think so. I think that the special ingredient was sharing. And the really important bit that went into that pot was sharing. Because on that day, all those townspeople learned the importance of sharing. They all said that they had nothing. But when they all gave a little bit of something, they had something incredible. This wonderful stone soup, which was really a vegetable soup, wasn't it? Because they all gave all these different vegetables, they put it all in the pot together, and they had this wonderful big pot of what they thought was stone soup. And so what do we learn from this? Well, I think that we learn that when we each give a little bit of something, we can achieve a lot. And we also learn how important it is to share. Because in this story, the townspeople learned an important lesson, that if we each give a little, we can achieve a lot. And so as we come to an end, I'm going to encourage you to do some writing for me. And I wonder whether you can write me a story or a poem about sharing. Maybe it could be something about you, a time where you have shared something, or when somebody has shared something with you. Throughout this harvest time, our churches are trying our best to share what we have. And in church, we're collecting tins for our local food bank. Things like tins of peas, tins of potatoes, tins of carrots, and even tins of soup. Not stone soup, but lots and lots of vegetable soup and other tasty soups. And these will be going off to the food bank so that we can share these things that we have with those who go without, those who don't have very much at all. Because if we each give that little bit of something, then wonderful and amazing things can happen. Now at harvest time, Christians and lots of other people give thanks to God and for those who prepare our food and grow our food for us. And so to end today, I'm going to say a short prayer. And if you'd like to make this prayer your own prayer, then all you have to do is say Amen at the end. And that's entirely up to you. If you want to make my prayer your prayer, then just simply respond Amen. So let's say a prayer. Dear God, each season brings something new for us to see and enjoy. With sunny days and rainy days, our crops grow large. Fruit and vegetables ripen, ready for us to harvest. And so we say thank you for all of the food that we have to eat and enjoy. And let us also remember the people who may not have enough, and give us the courage to share just a little of what we have to make the lives of those who have very little a lot better. Help us to be kind to others in our thoughts our words and our actions. Amen. So I really look forward to reading some of your stories and your poems about sharing, and I hope to see you next time. Maybe next time I may be able to come to see you in school, or if not, I will see you in another video. Bye.